one cell. And then that become two, and so on and so forth. Eventually, that get elongated, we become like a worm. Now, if we look at the cross section, eventually, a part of that thing dimples in and then separates. That is ectoderm, that's endoderm, and between becomes mesoderm. And literally, this is become our central nervous system, this become our skin, and that between become our other organ. In reality, that is like a elongated tube right here. And then this part become the brain, this can become the spinal cord, and so on. And the interesting part is that there is this small little piece of tissue, like almost like dots, along here. If you're interested, look up what those things are called, but they end up being our discs. But that is what really gives the command for our spinal cord to grow nerves, arteries, vessels, limbs, and so on and so forth. In the head, it makes our brain. In the neck, in the fish, it makes our gills. In the human, it makes our larynx, and so on. And in where our arms and hands are, it makes actually our limbs, and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, if you take a piece of tissue here and put it somewhere else, you can grow arm on the back of a frog or something. Literally, you can do that. That's crazy. Now, this new relation, we call that new relation, this tube that become our central nervous system. Now I'm going to get a cut of that like that. This is the neural tube. This is that center of the thing that makes the bone grow. The bone grows, then from here and here, they come together and they close in the back. Now, nature does really funny things sometimes. Sometimes, and it comes in all variation, sometimes these two pieces don't meet. Then you have like a two pieces here are not connected together. And obviously, around the spine, there is as well a membrane, dura, becomes dura, okay? Long time ago, people thought this dura gives birth to it's not correct, it's wrong. Arab scientists, they did dissection, they thought this gives birth to spinal cord and brain. They called it tough mother, dura mater. Underneath is a soft mother, pia mater. Pia soft, dura hard. We know that's not true, but this, you remember I told you there are all kind of variation. Sometimes this hole is much bigger. Sometimes as well, these two go around each other instead of meeting and connecting. And sometimes as well, this membrane sags out. Sometimes this membrane sags out, but then it retires, becomes thin. It goes all the way to the skin. This being the skin. When it happens, there is a dimple, literally a dimple here, remnant of it, but then there is this what we call atresia, meaning that it goes away, but there is still a pad there. Sometimes this pad, if it happens, we call that pilonidal cyst or something, but we call it the pilonidal cyst because sometimes it doesn't go away, and there is still a pad there that make a cyst along this pad and so on. And then we have to find it and eliminate it because it has a risk of infection and so on to the spinal cord and the central nervous system. But if you see a patient like the picture we showed to you, there's a dimple there, you have to be always aware of that, something like that, all of that can exist. Like the patient we just saw, the back of the spine, instead of the back of the spinal process together, they were passing each other. There was a gap, patient had a pyelonephrosis, and then you would see that the lamina is completely different than a normal person. Now, it gets sometimes worse. Sometimes life is brutal. This misses completely. And as well, spinal cord bulges out. Sometimes the dura covers it, but sometimes dura doesn't cover it. And then we go there as a surgeon. Then in those cases, obviously the distance is not that much. Usually in those cases, it is dimpling and so on, and then you have literally a spinal cord material just laying out there with CSF leak and everything. These kids, we get them right after the birth, as soon as possible. We go and close it. I have done that many of the surgeries. So obviously every step of that has a different name, but these are all the variation. But if you see a patient with a small little dimple in the back, pay attention if there is any fluid collection there, if it's dirty around it, but because that says this part is open, and that put the patient at a significant, literally central kind of infection that can be meningitis and deadly and so on. So pay attention if you see a dimple to see if it's clean or if it's inflamed and there's a cyst there, and if material, because material that comes out dries out and it makes there around that really dirty. And it's usually it can be anywhere in the middle from our sacrum up to any lumbar region, but it's very distinct from usual crease of the buttock. Thank you.